Doctor Who Season 15, Episode 5, The Story and the Engine, builds its narrative on a very similar concept to that of its immediate predecessor, Lucky Day. It could be coincidental, but I think the mysterious nature of the show's current era suggests a conscious decision by showrunner Russell T. Davies and the writers of both episodes. The Story and the Engine essentially restores Ncuti Gatwa as the leader of the Doctor Who Season 15 cast, after his role as the 15th Doctor was vastly reduced in Lucky Day. Interestingly, it's the Doctor's past that connects both stories. The new villain in Doctor Who Season 15, Episode 5, is at the heart of the story, but it's the episode's supporting cast that makes The Story and the Engine share a connection with Lucky Day. Inversely, Conrad Clark, Jonah Hauer-King, the primary antagonist in Lucky Day, is the relevant figure that has me noticing the similarities between his episode and The Story and the Engine. However, while Conrad was lying to Ruby Sunday, Millie Gibson, for a huge portion of Lucky Day, the deception in The Story and the Engine is far more fantastical. Lucky Day and The Story and the Engine both involve people the Doctor met as children. Conrad and Omo both have deceptively long histories with the Doctor. The 15th Doctor and Belinda running into Conrad at the beginning of Lucky Day is a big part of what sets the story in motion. Conrad was just 8 years old at the time, and the encounter went on to shape his future. Similarly, Saul Rimi's Omo in The Story and the Engine also met the Doctor at a young age, and his life changed forever. Of course, the Doctor has been reunited with young characters years into their respective futures before, but the scenario happening twice in such quick succession feels like it has a hidden relevance. The show makes it clear where 15 is in his timeline when he lands in 2007 with Belinda Chandra, Varoda Setu, and speaks with Conrad. It's just after The Well, but before The Story and the Engine. When the Doctor speaks to Conrad at the end of Lucky Day, 15 is traveling alone after Ruby's departure, but before meeting Belinda in The Robot Revolution. For Omo, all we know is that he met the 15th Doctor before, so it could have been at any point between the end of The Giggle and the start of The Story and the Engine. Conrad and Omo each reacted to their TARDIS encounters in very different ways. 15 made a friend as usual, but also an accidental enemy. The Doctor doesn't always change people's lives for good, even if that's often his intention. At the very least, he probably wants them to remain unchanged by their encounters with him, as long as they are safe when he departs. Humans, however, are unpredictable, and even the most neutral of interactions can lead to very different outcomes. For Omo, he cherished being rescued by the Doctor and chose to share the tale of their meeting with everyone who would listen, hailing the Time Lord as a hero and a friend. Conrad didn't feel the same way about how the Doctor touched his life. Although he was struck with the same level of wonder as almost every human who first lays eyes on the TARDIS, various factors eventually soured his opinion of the Doctor and alien life in general. Because no one would initially believe Conrad about what he'd witnessed, he started to think that all extraterrestrial activity was a hoax. By the time of Lucky Day, he's eventually revealed to be the leader of a group of extremist conspiracy theorists called Think Tank, and his damaging ideology causes chaos. It may not be a coincidence that the 15th Doctor has bumped into two old friends. Mrs. Flood could be to blame for the Doctor's successive reunions. Anita Dobson as Mrs. Flood in Doctor Who. As I mentioned earlier, this kind of storyline isn't original in Doctor Who. For example, Matt Smith's 11th Doctor travelled with Amy Pond, Karen Gillan, years after 11 first encountered his future companion as a young child. That said, Doctor Who's Disney era has placed increasing emphasis on there being a more compelling explanation behind things that seem like mere happenstance. So, Season 15 bringing the Doctor face-to-face once more with Conrad and Omo in back-to-back episodes probably means more than it seems. One of my best theories that could account for this phenomenon ties into another theory about Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, secretly belonging to Doctor Who's pantheon as the god of stories. If so, then Mrs. Flood may be guiding the TARDIS to land in places where the Doctor's story is being spread in particularly interesting ways. This would also explain how the Doctor met real-world Doctor Who fans in Lux, as they knew the Time Lord's life was a string of fictitious adventures. Alternatively, Doctor Who Season 15 could be examining the impact of meeting the Doctor for another reason.